Hey everybody, I'm going to go over the web scraping homework solutions. So this first question is asking, here's the USA Analytics website. Find the top domains over the past 7 days and past 30 days. Find the ratio between the two. So if we pop open this website, we had talked a little bit about this number, how when you load this website, maybe I can simulate it here, you'll see 3 dots instead of this number. So for example, you can see it really quickly there, there's 3 dots. So there's the shell, that's going to be the HTML, and then there are scripts, there are JavaScript or other things that are filling in this data that we want to get those numbers, those figures instead of the ... right? That's not helpful. So what we're interested in getting is the top pages for the past 7 days and the past 30 days. So we want to get these data sets and we want to take the ratio of them. Okay. So if we wanted to extract this information, we showed how we need to use the network tool. So if I run this, we're going to see, okay, all the data is loaded. I'm going to stop recording. I'm going to sort, and here's the XHR. So we're looking for those 7 days and 30 days. If you scroll down, luckily for us, we can kind of see that these are obviously the ones, these 7-day JSON and the 30-day JSON. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this in a new tab. Here's the 7-day, then here's going to be the 30-day. All right, so we have our data sets open. These are the ones that we're going to want to scrape. So I'm going to set up my script here. So our library is going to be JSON Lite, library Harvest, library MagRitter. All right, I'll delete everything else we got going on from before. All right. So we're going to read in the 30-day stuff first. So let's do from JSON. So if, remember, we only use read HTML. If it's an HTML file, we only use, whereas we use from JSON if it's a JSON file. So we're going to call this days 30. All right, so now days 30 is a list of 7. Let's just explore it. So best way to explore it is you can use the str days 30. This will give you a little bit of a hint. So here's all sorts of the structure of it. So you have name, sampling, query, all this information. But another way you can do it is if you just wanted to type it in, type $, and you can see here are all the 7 elements. You have name, sampling, query, meta, data, totals, taken at. So let's just look at data. Let's put another $. So we have domain, visits, page views. Again, these little purple blocks mean vector, whereas this means data frame. So we're pretty much going to be interested in this data frame. We have a domain, visits, page views, users, page views per session, average session duration, and exits. So this is going to be our data that we actually care about. So I'm just going to save over my original JSON object, which is just a list, and I'm going to save it over as the data frame version of it. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same exact thing, but I'm going to change all the 30s to 7s. So days 7, days 7, days 7. All right. So luckily, this is very similar data set. We only had to change the 7 and it all worked. So right now we have 20 observations, though we do have a different number of variables. So maybe let's look at days 7 domain 1 to 5, and let's do days 30 domain 1 to 5. This first one is the same, but this second one, CDC and IRS, are different. So if we start to try to match these things up or just take one vector to the next one, we're not going to get the match that we actually want. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to use that match function that we were talking about 2 days ago or 1 day ago or however long it was. So we're going to use match, and we're going to do days 7 domain, and we're going to match this into days 30 domain. Match, we got pretty much all of them, but they are slightly out of order, as you'll see. And then except we can't match this last one. So that's fine. So we'll say days 30. We want to grab the visits, maybe. days 7, visits 30, right? So I'm making a new vector here because right now I already have domain and visits, but I want to know how many visits were for the 30-day mark. Look at day 7. We got both of these, right? We're missing this USCIS.gov. Apparently this was not a top 20 for the 30-day mark. But anyway, we have our differences here. So we want to take a ratio between these, not so hard. Visits divided by days 7 is 30. Maybe we'll do it this way so it's a whole number, right? And then we can round to the nearest 1. Numeric. Okay, so we have to just convert to numeric. All right, so here's our ratios, right? So maybe we want to plot a table of that. So there's one over here that's 8.2. We can see that's this one. And then some of the smaller ones, 3.6. So let's say we want to identify these ones. This is not part of the homework, but I figured let's, just do it anyway. So if I wanted to identify which ones were the biggest and the smallest, I can use this command called which, and I could say which of these equals the max of these. So a little bit long function here. Oops. So max is not going to work because we have that NA value, right? So what we want to do is say NA.rm equals true. That's going to give us 16. So now we can say days 7 domain. So which one of these has the 8.2? That's nhc.noaa.gov. Now, if we wanted to know about the minimum, CDC and FDA apparently both have 3.6. So you can guys see the whole code here. I'm not sure if it'll be able to be on one line, but here's what you would do. So we're just doing this. Now, if we want to make this a little bit shorter, for example, we could take this round and we can make this num, maybe say num max num, right? So now it's definitely readable. We're gonna get the same answer. Okay. So let's see what I did on the first homework, see if my solution for this matched. Written Arvest. There's my code, migrator JSON. I read both these things. I then knew I had to match these two, converted them, or I didn't even, I matched it here. And I just made the ratio like this and I plotted it. All right. So that's the first one. The second one says, here are the National Cyber Awareness Systems website. For each year, for each alert, find the date of the event, title, link, and ID. So let's take a look. So here we have all of these cyber attacks or alerts or whatever, right? So compromise of US water treatment facility, emoint malware, Loki bot malware, right? All these sorts of things. Maybe we want to get a data set of all of these things. We want the ID number. So we want this. We want the link. And maybe if we go into this URL here, they have an original release date. So maybe we want something like this. All right. Let's grab this URL. And let's call this, let's remove everything. Right. So now we got to figure out what node this is. Let me get rid of some of these guys. Let's find out what node this is. So I'm just going to inspect this first thing. I just clicked on the text and highlight this as a span. So as I kind of move up and see what else it gets highlighted, this UL looks like it's the list of everything. If I go up one more, it's just an item list. If I close this, item list, UL is unordered list, and then LI is list item. So it's pretty natural that this is structured this way. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to look for this. This is the selector. Now this is kind of annoying because it's so long. But one way to do this is we can search for divs with class item list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for, well, if we look for this, how it is, we'll find node set of 0. Sometimes that happens when there are some oddities. Let's see. Okay, so this happened to work. So what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of digging into the list, trying to expand it. So here's all the list items. So I'm not sure why that previous one didn't work. Sometimes it happens if that string is just too long, sometimes it just doesn't register. So we'll just ignore it. But one thing you can do is you can always look for the div. So whatever the object is type, and then you can always put the class list, so dot item slash list. Now, sometimes you'll have multiple, like this one, classes region space region dot dash content. You can then look for dot region or dot region content. Okay, so here's our list of all these things here. So let's see. The homework was asking for each year, for each alert, for each, find the date, link, title, and ID. So let's first focus on getting the link. So let's do HTML nodes LI. I think it's looking for within this. It already knows that this is LI. So maybe we should do div. Okay, let's give us each one of these. Let's look for HTML nodes span. It's going to give us a span. And then if we simply just want the text, we'll just type in HTML text. All right. So now we've gotten both the ID and we've gotten the name of it. So this is going to be called. Okay. Now, in order to split this up, we're going to want to take this half and this half. You can use string split, or you can use a substring. Now, string split might be a problem here in case there's any other sort of colon. It might break it up twice. So I'm going to use a substring here. I think it's probably a safer option. So ID name 1 until expression space colon space. If I look at this, now here's all of these ones. Remember, I want to subtract 1 so I can get rid of that extra space. These are going to be my IDs. I'm going to call these IDs. Now for names, I'm going to want to do the opposite. So I'm going to want to go from substring ID name, regular expression this. If I do +1, because I want to go the opposite way, and then nchar of ID name. Now this actually won't work exactly how we want it to, because if you realize, even though we're only increasing one, it's telling me the position of where this string starts, not the entire thing. So notice how there's actually 3 characters. There's a space, a colon, and a space. So instead of +1, we actually need to do +3. Now it should look better. Another thing here is to be on the lookout for. There's an extra space here. I just noticed it. So for each of these things, you might want to just do trim WS names, and then we just do IDs, trim WS, IDs. Not that there's any spaces at the end of IDs, but just for completeness and to be sure. And then names, trim white space, names. All right, so now names, that extra space should be gone. Yes. Okay, so now we have those 2. So that's the title and ID. Let's find the link now. So let's just go back to what we had here, where we had our div. This. All right. If we go inside, there's an A node. So I'm going to check this out. All right, so here's the href here. And ask for the attribute. There it is. I'm going to call this, I'm going to add in the rest of the URL. So I'm going to add in this HTTPS up until .gov. So paste 0, this, and then I'll tell it where to paste at the end. Check this out. That's the whole URL. Say this is URLs. And finally, I needed the date of each one, but the date wasn't found on this page. It was actually found on each individual's page. So save this, and then let's make a data frame. It will have the name, names, ID equals IDs, URL equals URLs. So name, ID, and URL are all the column names, and then these are the vectors that I'm passing it. So we'll call this attacks. All right. So now we have to visit each one of these URLs to pull the date. So we'll do link in attacks URL. We get to visit each one of these. So let's just in the console save link as attacks URL 1, just so we can test it. So as we're doing this, we'll be able to save link as a value. So we'll do link read HTML. All right, now let's check out, let's go to one of these things. So let's go to this first one. And here's the original release date. Let's inspect that. I'll head right to it. So class submitted meta text. You open this up, it's got information. So let's take this meta text. So we're going to look for div.meta/text through HTML, HTML nodes, div.meta text. Well, there it is. So let's just take the text from it. Let's save this as txt. All right, txt now looks like this. Okay, so pretty crazy. It's got this \n, which means new line. It's got a whole ton of spaces, original release date, then it's got another new line, and then it's got a whole bunch of spaces. So this might look crazy, and you're gonna have to figure out how to manipulate this, but this is really just string stuff that we had, been working with before. So let's do this. Let's get rid of first everything we don't want. So the first thing we don't want are \n's, right? So if I try to do this, I get rid of the \n. All right. If I want to get rid of all those extra spaces, right? I'm going to wrap this in a second one because I want to replace extra spaces with a single space. So \s plus, that's going to be multiple spaces, replace it with a single space. So now I have looking like this. I'm going to trim the white space. All right. So I'm just going to keep it like this for now. We'll get rid of the rest of the text later, but for now, let's just leave it like this. All right. So now we're going to use that which again. So which attacks URL double equals link. It should give us 1. Give us 1. And we'll say, back when I made my data frame, I can also include this. I can include date equals NA. Okay. So attacks date. So we run this. It's going to run. It's going to collect all those dates. I'm going to stop it early. And I want to just show a little bit of a progress bar. We had talked about it before, but I want to just make it explicit here. So \r and cat will get rid of, it'll delete what you had previously written on the line, and it'll post whatever it is. So for here, I might just want to print which number I'm on. So if I want to print what number I'm on, I could do it like this. Right, so 1, 2, 3, 4. It goes pretty quickly. If I wanted to do more of a percentage, I could just divide by maybe n row of attacks. And I'm going to want to round this off so it doesn't look too crazy. Round it off by 2. And I'm going to put a % done. By 100. All right. So now it has everything done. Let's take a look at attacks. So attacks looks like this, got name, ID, URL. Now the problem here is that I have original release date, but then this one has original release date and it also has a last revised. So we want to pretty much get rid of anything that's not this, right? So what we want to do is we want to say, can we find / in attacks URL? Is this possible? False for all of them. Maybe we just need to do the regular /. So true for all of them. Let's look for a different one. Maybe last revised. Yeah, let's get rid of if it says last revised. So REPL last revised in attacks. Oh, it's in date. That's why it didn't work. That's true for everything because that's just nothing or nothing. Double /, it'll only tell me the ones that it does. So I was okay. So true. So what we want to say is, if else this is true, do something. Otherwise, do nothing. So our do nothing is just going to be leave attacks date alone. Otherwise, we want to do substring attacks date. And we want to start at 1 until we find this / in attacks date minus. If we -1, it'll get rid of this /. If we do -2, it'll get rid of the / and the space. Now everything looks much cleaner. So this is going to be saved as attacks date 2. It might be a good idea. Maybe you want to keep that data. So maybe deleting it isn't the best option just yet. And now we want to clean this. So we want to get rid of this information. G sub this with nothing in attacks date 2. Now, finally, if you wanted to convert this to usable data, this is just text right now. If you wanted to convert this to usable data, you might want to use lubridate. You have the month, day, year format. Lubridate's incredible at converting these things to objects. So now, and even though it has quotes here, this is technically a date object because it's from lubridate. So you can add and subtract these two things. So for it, just for completeness, if I was interested, I could just do this minus 2, and it'll difference of 8 days. So now I can convert the text data to the date form. All right, so this is very similar. I guess I did it slightly differently here, but anyway works. However, you can get those observations, those things. I didn't convert the date here. I only printed ID, but I did get a data frame where I had all that stuff. So this is just for a single year, right? So this is only helping me get it for 1 year. If I wanted to do multiple years, I could scrape this, all this information, and then I can do, oops, let me go back. Then I can go to the next year, so 2020, 2019, and I can loop through this and I can write a script to do this. So effectively what I'd have to do is this would be the first one, but let's suppose we're only interested in like the 2022 one. Do base 0. And this would be /year for year in 2020 to 2015. I'll just do it quickly. We'll take this, we'll read it in, we'll find the IDs, we'll do all this trimming, and we'll get our attacks. So I'm not going to fill in the URLs, or maybe I will. I'll get rid of this loop date. So I'll paste this into my for loop, right? So now it's kind of shifted everything over already, which is another nice feature about our studio. So everything you can kind of see is part of the for loop. So in this year, I got this information, all of this, everything should be pretty flexible from what I wrote so far. So now let's say at the end of this, I want to save my attacks. So I'll say final length of final +1 attacks. And right here, I will put final as a list. So if I run this, I start to go, let's see what happens. So this is the first year. So it's gotten all those dates for the first year. Here's going for the second year, third year, the fourth year, and the fifth year. Oh, and it's still going. All right, maybe there were 6 years. So now I have final, which is a list of 6. So yeah, 6 years. Each one has a data set. This one's 30 observations. This is for 14, right? 10. So I'll do call attacks are bind, and I'll save it as final 2. Oh, this should be final. I get confused which one goes first. R binds first. So final 2 is now a data frame of 79 observations with a date object, a original date here, a URL, an ID, and a name. So that's how you would do this if you wanted to do for more, however you want. All right. So finally, this third one is asking, here are the top 250 movies according to IMDb. get the movie title, year, link, rating, and the number of people who viewed. So this is in italics, so it's got to be something special. So here's the data frame. I clearly did it. Let's look at the website. So here it is. We got The Shawshank Redemption, The Godfather Part 2, The Dark Knight, 12 Angry Men, Schindler's List, and so on. So here's a list of all these things. So I want the, what was it, year, the title, year, link, rating, and number of people. So title, year, the link should be embedded here. The rating and the number of people, you can see here 9.2 based on 2 million observations or user ratings. All right, so let's copy this. Let's remove everything again. All right. So here's our link. Let's say link read HTML. Go back to our page. Let's inspect this to see what we're trying to look for. Click on that number 1. Here's TD. So you might be noticing this by now, but tables in HTML are broken down based on column group, head, body, and then rows, and then TD, table data, is within this. So columns are within the table rows. It's kind of like LaTeX in a way. So here's the body. Here's the actual table itself. So here's what we want to grab. So let's copy the selector. Let's place it right in here. Let's see if this works. We got one HTML table. Got all sorts of information. Although it looks a little funky. So maybe it's just so big. Oh no, there it is. There, it's normal. Movies. All right. Before I move on, I also wanted just to mention that when you're doing these, this is the point at which you would write the HTML. So you would do write HTML, and you would save this to, or you would save this wherever you're storing your data, because maybe you want to loop through this, right? You would save each individual thing, especially for something like this where you're going to each of these pages of text. Maybe you want to do a text analysis of them or something like that. So you'd want to save them. But here I'm just showing the scraping. So we have our movies table. So 250 movies, 5 variables. So this first one is always missing for some reason. This next one has your rank title into 1 column, rating, your rating. So this is, I guess, what I would have rated it. So nothing. And then variable 5 seems to always be missing too. So right off the bat, I can probably get rid of variable 1 and variable 5 just to make this a little bit easier, a little bit cleaner. So movies, variable 1 is null. And then movies is null. Okay, now I got 3 variables. I got this one. So let's try to get the year first. So if we wanted the year, we could do movies year is going to be G sub. Remember, we're going to look for anything plus, meaning so string of anything, until you find an open parenthesis or a closed parenthesis followed by anything. This almost worked. It just didn't get rid of this right here. Why is that? Not totally sure. Well, regardless, let's do this, and then we'll just substring it from 1 to 4. So if we do this, then we can do movies year substring movies year 1 to 4, because we know a year has to be 4 characters long. If I wanted to do it with purely substrings, I could do substring movies this from when I find open parenthesis movies rank. So this is going to be until I find it plus 1, because I want to go, I don't want to just find the parenthesis, I want to go past it by 1. And then I want to go until I find a second parenthesis. Oops, the closing parenthesis. And I want to do this minus 1. So years 2, look like this. Now, the only issue with this, and doesn't seem to happen, is if there was a parenthesis within the movie. If the movie was like werewolf parenthesis scary or something like that. But in this case, this should work totally fine. So if you want the G sub solution, it looks like this, although I had to modify it slightly. And then also the substring solution is right here. So that gives us the year. Now we need the title. The title should also be fairly easy. So movies, rank title. Let's just look at the first one. So we have this 1 period backslash, a bunch of spaces, and then some text. So we want to get rid of all this information. So what we want to do is we want to G sub some numeric, or I'm not sure if that's the right one. It should, I think it's digit. Digit. And I want to go until, if there's multiple digits, if there's 1 digit or 2 digits, I want to use the plus, because I want to use 1, or if it's 2 digits, 3 digits, right? Followed by a period, followed by a backslash n. I want to replace that with nothing. Movies. Let's give it a go. So it looks like it got rid of all that stuff. We trim the white space. We got this. Let's say we also wanted to get rid of all this information. Then what we can say is, okay, we're going to G sub that. Or backslash n. So this guy right here, double backslash space. So any number of spaces followed by open parenthesis, then digit. So any number of digits, even though we know it's 4, I just don't want to type it 4 times. Close parenthesis. So that's going to get rid of this whole string like this. And we're going to trim that white space. So this is going to be the title. Movies title. Now you can also do a substring solution as well. I'm sure you can delete those things. You could find the first space and then go from the first space until you see text, and then you can kind of just imagine a substring solution. I'm not going to do it right now. So that gives me the year, the title, the IMDb rating, the link. Let's get the link. So I'm here now, and I'm going to ask for the A nodes. href always live in A nodes. So you'll see here is all the A nodes. There's 500 of them though. So let's see, that's double the 250. HTML attribute is going to be href. Here's the text. Let's do unique. Let's see how many uniques there are. Right here, 250. So that's perfect. So this is going to, now let's do page 0, get the IMDb beginning part. And get rid of this slash because we got it right at the beginning here. So there's our links. Just to make sure, let's copy and paste one. It should go to this one. Just be complete. Into the wild. That's not, oh, this is 231. So number 231. Into the wild, to 231. Okay. So that works. So this is our link. So rather I could do movies. The last thing I needed was to get the number of people who had rated it. So this only gives me 9.2. So I need to try to figure out a way to get the thing where you hover over it. So let's go to this one and let's just inspect the specific one here. So here we got strong title equals 8.0 based on number user ratings. All right, so let's look for the strongs. So let's do this table, but instead of an A node, we're going to look for strong. 250 of them, and here it is. So let's pull out the HTML attribute. The attribute now is actually going to be title. So you're using href. The title, here it is. I'll start to gsub some stuff. So we want to get rid of the based on. So actually, this one might be a little bit easier just to do a substring. So substring this, and then we'll do length or char. I had copied this, so this is number of characters plus 1, and then this. So let's do nchar. All right, so now we got this, and now we can just gsub space user rating. There's a number. And we also want to do user rating or commas. We want to get rid of all the commas too to make it numeric. This, and then movies. Total ratings. All right. So now movies has, I think, all the information that we'd want. We got the link, we got the title, we got the year, we got the total ratings. So maybe you want to do something like plot movies, total ratings, and movies, IMDb rating. That's a pretty linear relationship there. So cool. But anyway, this is I think the entire homework. I don't think there was anything else. So here's the version I did. I didn't clean up this information as much. I didn't clean up the title as well. But everything else looks good. So you can look at this code. It might be slightly differently than I programmed here because I did this all on the fly, both times actually. So maybe it's helpful to read this one. Maybe it's helpful to check out this code. But anyway, I hope you guys learned something from this, and I hope you guys are able to scrape websites now. Have a good one.